After two interim leaders, Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud was elected president just last September. He joins us now live from London. Thanks very much for being with us. You've been in office for a few months now. As you tour Europe to try and shore up some international help to rebuild Somalia, what would you say are your top priorities?
Thank you very much. I have been in Europe in the last 1 week, from Brussels to London, and we have been discussing with the top priority issues of Somalia with the European leaders. And we presented our views of moving Somalia from relief to recovery and starting a new beginning for Somalia. And we presented the top priorities of my government, which is security, judiciary reform and public finance management, among many other priorities. So this was the most important trip I made in recent times, next to the one I made in the United States. And the responses we are receiving from the European leaders is very, very positive and encouraging.
And so no doubt, and from what you say, Mr. President, the most pressing issue is how to restore security across Somalia. We said that Al-Shabaab has withdrawn, but there are still the occasional suicide bombing, of which you are mainly the target and have been in the last few days. But beyond that, your government doesn't control very important, very large chunks of the territory. In central Somalia, in southern Somalia, you do not control, for example, Kismayo or Puntland or Somaliland. How effective can your government be with such limited control over your own territory?
In the last 22 years, this is the only time that the Somali government is trying to go and control parts of Somalia. Somali governments in the past, particularly the transitional governments, mainly remained in Mogadishu. This is a time we are moving outside Mogadishu. Many areas have been taken over from Shabaab, and more are in the process. We are now consolidating those areas that has been recovered from Shabaab, but soon our plans are soon there will not be a front that Shabaab controls. But the other issue that you said, the roadside bombs, suicide bombs, this will continue for some time. It's not something that will end soon. But Shabaab is militarily defeated. Their control and command is disrupted. Their source of income has been closed. So we are in a far, far better position than any other government in Somalia has been in a very short period of less than 5 months.
You say you're in a better position, but of course that is with the help of African troops. Don't you perhaps need to look, as many people have suggested, at a long-term solution, perhaps a process of reconciliation in order to bring all of these different regions under your own central command?
Yes, you're right. This has been done with the help of the African forces in Somalia, but these African forces in Somalia has been there in Somalia for almost 8 years now, so they are not coming now. This is the time they got a local effective partner government that represents that vision. And on the other hand, our strategy is not based only on the war front. We are mobilizing the society, and we are working on two parallel lines of reconciliation. What is political reconciliation, and the other one is social reconciliation. That is also underway. It's not the military operations that we are working only.
And you've often said that one of your top priorities is to strengthen the justice system, the judiciary. Yet many in Somalia and international organizations as well say that your government is trying to intimidate journalists and that you are doing absolutely nothing or virtually nothing to investigate these killings. Let me just give you the numbers that are out there. You've had 14 deaths of journalists recorded in 2012, and you've had journalists as well kept in jail under your watch. One still is in jail today for reporting on sexual crimes against women. Another one was in jail for a few weeks. How do you explain this?
First of all, one has to realize that Somalia has been without a functioning state institutions for over 22 years. We are in office for 5 months only. I know in the history of Somalia, Mogadishu has been the most secure place in the African continent. And I remember when our ladies were moving in the streets freely without any hazard. I'm very much disappointed today the histories that are going on in Somalia. But the realities in the ground sometimes dictate that we cannot do whatever we want. This case is very unique one. I'm very much disappointed, and I'm sorry. I don't have the the details to let you know now, but what I know is that we have a legal system. It's weak, there is an issue of capacity, it's new, but even then with that weak system, I'm an elected president and I don't have the right to interfere the judiciary system. What can do today, I'm in England, what I'm in UK, what David Cameron can do in a court case, what Her Majesty can do in a court case, the same. I just want to wait what the results are. If the results of the courts are not satisfied, there are so many other ways that we can review and we can. But for me, I'm not very happy, and I have a track record on the case of the human rights, on the case of women development. My government is the only government so far that have proven that it's very much interested and very much committed to promote women, let alone rape or any violence.
On this issue, Mr. President, if I may just interrupt, because it's an important issue that affects very many women in your country, sexual abuse against them, rapes. According to the United Nations, there have been 1,700 cases of women raped in camps for the internally displaced in Mogadishu itself, and many people believe that your government is doing nothing to hold anyone accountable. Let me just read for you a quote by the UN Special Representative of the Secretary General on Sexual Violence in Conflict. She says there's a culture of denial, silence and stigma when it comes to rape, and that many of these cases were actually perpetrated by men wearing uniform, by government forces, in other words. What are you doing to put a stop to this?
We have established a task force, a special security forces that are specifically there to investigate, to go after the rape cases. We have established a ministerial task force for the assassinations of the journalists that has taken place last year. You said 14, but the reality on the ground tells me that it's 18 cases. But we are doing our best to address all these issues. You can understand where we are, and we are very much committed on this. Regarding the issue of the rape, this is very unique. We established very special forces to go and investigate after the rape, and my government was started to do all these activities at the earliest days that we come into the office. We do not deny that there are cases of sexual rape, cases of assassinations, impunity. All this was there before we come, but
Mr. President, but the question is, and very briefly, if I may, and forgive me again to interrupt you, there is the case today of an alleged rape victim who's been charged and is sitting in jail for, quote, offending the honor of a state institution, and she could stay in jail for 9 years. How do you protect women from rape by putting them in jail?
I'm not putting women in jail, and I'm not happy women to be in jail. I'm very known, and Somalia and the rest of the world knows my position in women. But as I told you earlier, I cannot interfere cases that are going in the court. I have no right to do that. There are power separation in the new Somalia, and the culture we are going to develop is not to interfere the courts. Of course, there can be weaknesses in a country that has been without functioning state for 22 years. We are going to remedify whatever mistakes in place. But my interference to the judiciary system does not help to solve the problem. The problem is setting up the institutions, reviewing. If there are mistakes, we rectify. But me to interfere the justice system will never help the rule of law in Somalia.